Turning now to important news in the ongoing reckoning for policing in America. The Black Lives Matter movement has drawn more support amidst those national protests last year. It clearly catalyzed reforms in some state laws, as we've been covering. But on the key issue of police killings, which galvanized those protests, well, 2021 is already looking a lot like past years. Police use of force and shootings continuing on track with years prior. And while experts say some use of lethal force can be warranted, this steady rate is a problem because the U.S. has such a high use of force, as well as force often used in discriminatory ways. Take a new report that came to light just this week. California police shooting a black man to death over what is an alleged instance of jaywalking. Kurt Andras Reinhold asked police exactly where he jaywalked. He seemed to be disputing it. Cell phone video taken by a witness at the scene also shows him appearing to try to walk away from police in the encounter. That's relevant to whether he posed any potential lethal threat initially. Then they tackled him. You can see a shot of this here, an apparent escalation, which ultimately leads to another officer asserting that Reinhold had the officer's gun. Then 2 shots are fired, which killed him. A warning, the video is disturbing.
Easy on time here, bro.
I got it.
I want you to remember that disturbing scene in the middle of the day in San Clemente began with allegations of misdemeanor jaywalking. It's one of several stories that we are tracking which may not make the same national news as the killing of George Floyd on tape. You may or may not have heard about this one yet, but it reflects, of course, the same loss of life, the same questions about police conduct, just like another police killing within the last 2 weeks of 18-year-old Trey Webster, a robbery suspect who was killed in a shootout when a SWAT team entered his family's home to serve him a warrant for allegedly intimidating a witness. Like jaywalking, we are talking about things here that, even if they are against the law, are not, under any standard legal interpretation, something that would need to require the use of lethal force. Now, Webster was then accused of firing at a witness to persuade them not to testify in that robbery case. But that was at a different time. The incident here is controversial because of the nature of how he was attempted to be contacted by police. And now I'm going to show you his family, which alleges that police did so, that they entered without knocking or announcing themselves.
As they lay sleeping, their door was kicked in. There was no knock. Police SWAT team swarmed their house. None of them ever heard the word police. They were told to get the F down, shut the F up.
That is the family's representative giving their perspective. I have to report for you that's also in dispute because the police involved say that they did announce themselves and they argue it was Webster who shot first. Now, his family says they don't believe Webster had a gun. His mother insists any and all of this could have been avoided if the officers had clearly announced themselves and knocked.
They didn't have to kill him, but they killed him in cold blood. I want justice for my son. They didn't have to treat us like they treated us. If they would have knocked on the door, we would have answered and came outside. They treated us like we wasn't even human beings.
It's another mother's pain. And as I emphasize, if these are stories you haven't heard about yet or that aren't sparking the same national reckoning as Mr. Floyd's death, each human life is still equal. There are other reasons, some of them quite arbitrary, like what's on tape, that can affect whether the governmental and political forces are forced to respond. Now, by definition, a lot of these cases are scrutinized after the fact. And when police conduct is under a microscope, the law looks at it with the high bar of whether police committed a crime or not. But that's just one piece of the potential problems. say that a given tactic might be technically legal. Okay, state legislatures or Congress can decide or change whether it's legal or not. But if it results in foreseeable and avoidable death, even if it's technically legal, many experts say that is just terrible policing. Just like the no-knock warrant used when 26-year-old Breonna Taylor, an innocent woman, was fatally shot by police during a botched raid. Now, I mentioned what is legal. More states are considering bans of this controversial practice, which we see both in her death and these other cases continues to create many problems.